Today, we're cutting straight through the fluff. No long wind-ups, no empty motivational speeches. We're getting right into this explainer of Menelik Lennox's framework. 10 things billionaires do that poor people ignore.
Okay, let's dive into this. Lennox states right out of the gate that we aren't dealing with subjective opinions here. Listen carefully. These are patterns. We're analyzing hard facts, raw execution, and repeatable behaviors. If you want to really understand the wealth gap, you have to look at these specific, observable patterns that anyone can start replicating today.
To make Lennox's raw data easy to digest, we've structured it into 3 main pillars. Pillar number 1, rewiring the mindset. This is the foundational internal shift that is absolutely required for wealth. Let's get into it.
Most of us are taught from day one to start realistic and safe. Keep those expectations managed, right? But billionaires, they start completely differently. They literally start delusional. They lock onto a massive, almost impossible vision first, and they figure out the resources later. If your dream feels totally impossible to the people around you, Lennox argues that you aren't crazy, you're just early to the idea.
And here's how that vision feeds into their daily drive. Having a simple interest or some fleeting motivation, that's just not going to cut it for building serious wealth. Because obsession is what builds empires. The absolute game changer between average success and billionaire status is waking up and going to sleep completely and utterly obsessed with your goal. It has to consume your thoughts entirely.
And this brilliantly illustrates the next major mindset shift: how you actually define failure. For most people, a rejection or a massive loss feels deeply emotional and highly personal. It hurts. But the billionaire pattern? They treat failure purely as data. It's just a completely normal, expected part of the whole process. Every no is just a directional tool. It's an informational checkpoint bringing you one step closer to a yes. It's direction, not rejection.
Which brings us to our second pillar, the execution engine. This is where we move from that internal mindset out into the physical, relentless grind of transforming vision into reality.
Look at this massive trap for everyday entrepreneurs, wasting enormous amounts of time trying to be completely original. Billionaires, on the other hand, study the winners. They don't try to reinvent the wheel right out of the gate. They copy the pattern. Lennox's advice here is incredibly clear. Do not argue with what already works. Duplicate success first, apply it, and then you can innovate later once your foundation is rock solid.
Let's walk through the steps of this execution phase rapidly, because speed is absolutely key here. Step 1, accept discomfort early. Step 2, give up your weekends, your sleep, and your free time. And Step 3, build the foundation. If you want a life of ultimate luxury later on, you've got to accept some severe discomfort right now. Lennox emphasizes that comfort delays wealth. Yes, these are massive personal sacrifices, but they are absolutely non-negotiable in that early building phase.
So, how do they sustain this kind of brutal pace? Well, first off, you have to recognize that talent is vastly overrated. The real secret? It's just showing up, especially when you're tired, completely bored, or hopelessly stuck. Never stopping is absolutely crucial because momentum dictates everything in execution. Think about it. When you stop, you don't just pause your progress. You reset the entire system, and you have to build that momentum all over again from scratch.
Consistency beats intelligence. This is a hard-hitting anchor for a reason. You could literally have the highest IQ in the room, but if you don't show up consistently, the person who's grinding it out every single day is going to surpass you. Every single time. It is a mathematical certainty.
And what happens when they finally make it? Do they just kick back and relax on a beach somewhere? No way. Because comfort is a silent trap. Even after achieving massive initial success, billionaires intentionally keep themselves uncomfortable. Why? Because the very second things start to feel easy, growth immediately stops. Ambition dies. So they're out there actively manufacturing new challenges just to keep that execution engine running hot.
This seamlessly leads us into our third and final pillar, mastering leverage and networks. This is all about scaling your efforts through strategy once that execution engine is humming.
Once you're executing, that wealth has to be scaled. And there's a fundamental shift in financial literacy that completely separates the two mindsets. Poor people think profit is everything, but rich people, they think movement is everything. Lennox points out that billionaires respect cash flow way more than they respect some static profit margins sitting on a spreadsheet. Cash flow is oxygen. Without money constantly moving through the system, the business simply suffocates and dies. Movement is survival.
Now, What's really interesting about this slide is the completely different approach to acquiring knowledge. The ordinary habit is just passively consuming information. Reading articles, scrolling feeds, watching videos. But the billionaire habit, it's getting access. Knowing things is fine, but who you know changes absolutely everything. They prioritize getting into the right rooms with the exact right people.
Lennox drives this specific metric home beautifully here. Look at how one single mentor holds significantly more value than 100 books. I mean, you can read every business strategy book ever published, but having direct access to someone who has already successfully built exactly what you want to build, that fundamentally beats mere knowledge. Access accelerates your timeline like absolutely nothing else.
But here's the catch. That access doesn't just miraculously fall into your lap. You have to demand it. Closed mouth equals closed opportunities. Most folks just stay silent, quietly doing their jobs, politely expecting life or their boss to eventually reward them. Billionaires do not wait around. They speak up, they actively ask, they aggressively negotiate, and they push. Because if you don't open your mouth, literally nothing moves.
So the crucial point is coming up right here as we enter Section 4, the final choice. Let's look at the uncompromising reality of the wealth gap.
Really let this sink in for a moment. Billionaires are not magical. They just do things most people ignore. It's so incredibly easy to look at the ultra-wealthy and just assume they have some supernatural advantage or a secret magic trick. But as Lennox breaks it down, they are simply executing on these very specific, observable patterns day in and day out. That massive gap between ordinary, comfortable actions and these relentless patterns, that exact gap is where true wealth actually lives.
Use these patterns or stay exactly where you are. We've laid out the raw data for you in this explainer. We've shown you the step-by-step blueprint of how they operate, how they think, and how they execute. The responsibility is now entirely on your shoulders. What is your next move?